Pentagon officials, Democrats, Republicans and European leaders said the withdrawal of US troops gave Turkey a green light to act militarily against the Kurdish SDF in Syria. The Kurdish SDF called it a stab in the back. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has long described Kurdish fighters in northern Syria as terrorists that pose an existential threat to Turkey. On October the 8th, Turkish artillery and airstrikes began, targeting Kurdish positions across the border. Erdogan says Operation Peace Spring is a campaign against terrorism, not the Kurdish people, and he's rounded on international critics.
We have 3.6 million Syrian refugees in our country waiting to go back to their homes. The European Union, look at yourself. I repeat, at the moment you cannot call or define our operation as an invasion. Our job is easy. We could just open the doors and 2.6 million refugees, we will send them back to you.
Turkish forces and their Syrian rebel allies made quick gains on the battlefield, declaring control of the border town of Tel Abyad on October the 14th. The UN and aid organizations warned of a new humanitarian catastrophe as tens of thousands of civilians fled the Turkish forces' advance. As the fighting intensified, international pressure on Turkey continued to mount. European countries, including Germany, France and the Netherlands, cancelled weapons sales to Turkey. On the 14th of October, the US Treasury announced targeted sanctions on Turkey's defence, energy and interior ministers and two of their respective ministries. Fears grew about the military operation weakening the battle against ISIL when it was claimed up to 800 ISIL prisoners and family members had escaped an SDF-controlled jail shelled by Turkish forces. With their former US allies moving out and the Turkish military and Turkey-backed Syrian rebels advancing, Kurdish SDF fighters were forced to go to the Syrian regime and their allies, the Russians, for help. It is a deeply uneasy alliance. The Assad government, which had days before described the Syrian Kurds as traitors and separatists, was quick to act. The Syrian army deployed to various positions around 35 kilometers from the Turkey border. Russian military vehicles patrolled some of the areas in between to prevent a potential confrontation between Turkish-backed Syrian rebels and the Syrian army. In a letter dated October 9, Trump had warned Erdogan not to launch an operation against Syrian Kurdish fighters. Don't be a tough guy, it said. On October the 17th, a US delegation led by Vice President Mike Pence flew to Ankara for emergency talks. And as Erdogan traded insults and threats with world leaders criticizing his military operation, no one expected a pause in fighting to be announced.
Today, the United States and Turkey have agreed to a ceasefire in Syria. The Turkish side will pause Operation Peace Spring in order to allow for the withdrawal of YPG forces from the safe zone for 120 hours.
President Erdogan vowed that if Kurdish forces haven't completely withdrawn from within the proposed safety zone by Tuesday night, then full military operations would continue. The Kurdish SDF said they would only withdraw from a contact line stretching around 120 kilometers between the towns of Ras Al Ain and Tel Abyad. On October the 21st, the day before the ceasefire was due to end, Kurdish residents in the town of Kamishli spat and pelted US military vehicles with fruit as American soldiers headed to the Iraqi border, leaving their one-time allies behind.